And we're back with another edition of Your Palm Beach Guide. I'm Doug Evans, the president and CEO of the Palm Beach Chamber of Commerce, the Chamber of Commerce that I think is the best chamber of commerce in the world. We love other chamber of commerces. They're all great. They all do amazing work. But the Palm Beach Chamber of Commerce is special because we're in a very, very special town called Palm Beach. If you've seen us on TV, I'm sure you've heard about us for a variety of reasons. It's a barrier island. It's 9 miles long, I guess, or something. And there's about 8,000 of us who are the real full-time residents. And then in the winter, of course, we have lots and lots of fun people come here, and they winter here. They go to the restaurants. They go to the theaters. They go to the art galleries and do all kinds of wonderful things. And then people move here from places like the magical kingdom of St. Louis to further their career here. And one of those people is one of my BFFs. And this guy, you're watching him on YouTube or video, you're listening to him on our podcast. His name is Kyle Lux. And Kyle is quite the amazing artist. And he came into my life just over a year ago to talk about doing our annual guide cover. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time it is, Kyle. Hello, how are you?
At the very tail end of morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
It is. I'm so glad you're here. And I'm so glad you moved from St. Louis to Palm Beach. And Kyle did not start out as an artist, by the way. So this is what's even more fun about this. So Kyle's from St. Louis, has a degree in marketing.
Correct.
Public relations, something like that?
Marketing, yes.
And where did you go to school? WashU or something, or someplace?
No, I got out of the region. I went to Arizona State.
Why would you do that? Why would you leave a great school like WashU and leave St. Louis to go to Arizona State?
Well, I wanted to get out of the Midwest. I had not done that yet. And I just felt like spreading my wings a little bit, got out of my comfort zone. And every year through my high school, a couple people went to ASU. And so it was on my radar. Oh. And I just looked up to these couple guys that went out there a couple years ahead of me and thought, well, if it's good enough for them, let me go check it out. And so I went out there and fell in love with the topography and just the mountains and everything that I wasn't used to growing up with. And then it stuck, and I'm glad I went there, but it wasn't home. So when the time was up and I graduated, I went back to St. Louis.
That whole Arizona area has such a different vibe to it. It's not the Midwest. And I was in the Midwest for a long time also, so I know what it's like. And it's beautiful, by the way, but it's not me anymore. And some people say maybe it was never me. I don't know. I'm not quite sure. Yeah. But once you find some place new to go to, and you really resonate to it, then it's great. You always go home. Go back to St. Louis, and I go back to wherever I go back to, whatever that means anymore. and I enjoy it. But this is home. And at some point in time, Kyle, you told me the story when I first met you. At some point in time, something happened to you that made you come to the Palm Beach to work for somebody. You were staying at the Breakers. What happened there?
Yes. So my marketing degree led to a career in advertising and corporate events and sales incentive trips, corporate meetings. It's a big industry that most people don't know of unless you're in it, and you work for a big company that'll send you down to what people used to call a junket or something like that. So I was a coordinator for event planners. So they do all the legwork for 18 months, 2 years. And then at the time of finalizing all the details, they hire their team. I say it's the black ops for the event world, and I'm given a job and I fly down to where I ever need to go around the world, and I execute my position, which it's like a mini company. You have food and beverage team. You have the business team that works with the audiovisual group. You have transportation. So it's really impressive how it is set up, executed, and then you all fly in different directions.
And what was your job?
So I was on, I think, transportation for this trip. We had a small group, 4 or 5 of us with 2 event planners. And the clients were only 50 business managers from around the country for this one company. Luckily, I didn't know anything about Palm Beach, but they said, hey, we're going to send you down to Florida. You're going to fly into West Palm Beach and go across to this immaculate hotel called the Breakers. I had no idea what my room rate was. I got my daily rate, my per diem, and that was it. And I never got to leave the property. So that's
terrible place.
My first introduction to this.
Terrible place to be stranded. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And it was in a very busy time of my life when I was traveling all the time. So things tend to run together, but that one really stuck out of like, where am I? What is this? It's nice to be on the water as opposed to Las Vegas or the big destinations for meetings like Orlando, right. Dallas. So it was a really nice change to be
or Vegas
in Palm Beach. Yeah.
Or Vegas. Right. Love Vegas. It's fun, but it's not Palm Beach. It's not on the water. That's
first time I
sure.
stepped foot down here was 2017.
So you were down here hanging out in the hotel, working transportation, doing your thing. And then you end up going back to...
I went back to St. Louis.
Okay.
And so that was spring of 2017. 2 years later, our Stanley Cup winning Blues hockey team went on this historic run.
Get the plug in there. There you have it.
I hope you're listening, St. Louis Blues. So that was huge for all of us. It was one of those last few franchises to be successful but never win.
Right.
Like the Chicago Cubs finally won. The Red Sox finally won. So the Blues had this historic run. I was on top of the world. I was painting. It got picked up by the news. I was doing live events. It was a lot of fun. And then rode that wave through the end of 2019. And then we all know what happened in early 2020.
COVID.
Yes.
Shutdown.
I was still in St. Louis for all this.
Oh my. I was trapped in Palm Beach for COVID, which included a beach. So it was amazing.
Right.
It was not a problem whatsoever. But I had the great fortune to be here during that. So then you decided to pursue not marketing and events and planning, but to pursue your art,
right,
and to be an artist and to paint and draw and do all kinds of good things. What made you think you could do that?
So I always thought I could. I was the kid in class that could draw. I was the one who I got published when I was in middle school, and that was the show and tell piece. I was getting commissioned by my fourth grade teacher to draw Michael Jordan. I was getting paid in high school for commissions. So I knew this is what I wanted to do.
You paid in high school for commissions. Okay, well, there's talent right there.
Yeah, and so that was a lot of fun. When you're recognized at being good at something, whether it's athletics or theater or something, and you're, quote unquote, the best on the team, you're going to enjoy it more, most likely. And I had all the support I needed from my family. It runs on my mom's side. So if you were to ask me at 15 what I wanted to do in life, like, oh, I want to be a professional artist. But I knew the realities of how difficult that was. My mom worked in corporate America, and she has a fine art degree. So she was one of those that didn't use it. She got a job and was paying the bills and helped support the family. So she gave me a little piece of advice. You can do the art without an art degree. Yeah. It's harder to get a job with salary and benefits coming out of college without a business degree. So I took her advice, and that's why I got a marketing degree from ASU. But I never stopped being creative and drawing. I set up a business for it at 18. I was doing freelance illustrations in college. So it was always there, and it just took a matter of time to finally get to this point.
And your art, Kyle, to me is very specific with what you're doing. And what I say that in a good way, by the way. It's commissions. It's not caricatures. What would you call the people who are doing? What's the artistic trend? The word for that?
Yeah, the best thing I can think of is contemporary portraiture, and the contemporary just means a little more modern looking. It doesn't have this perfectly blended 300-year-old oil painting style before they even had cameras. So what you would see in museums and things, the Rembrandts of the world and that kind of stuff, it's not like that at all. It has some texture. It has layers. It's adapted from watercolor, which is a lot of thin layers, so you can kind of see what's below it. And I add in these polka dots and drips and things that spice it up a bit.
But yours are not watercolors.
No, it's acrylic.
Right.
Yeah, which helps down here in this heat, dries fast. But that, and the colors that come through, they're not necessarily what you'd see on the person. There's artistic license there. So all of that, I would say, I roll up into the contemporary portraiture label. But contemporary is a catch-all for really anything that's of the time. And
the first thing I saw of yours that you had done was Jackie Onassis. Yeah. And what were with those? How far into your journey did you do that one? Was that an early on? Was that recent?
So,
is that a mid kind of journey?
Great question. I established the style probably 10 years ago with the drips and the polka dots. And I was doing a lot of athletes at the time in St. Louis. So it made sense. The splatter paint looks like the athletes in motion, whether it is symbolizing the shaves of ice on the rink or the dust coming up from home plate in baseball. That's where the style started. But then I was adapting it to things that weren't in action. I was doing family portraits. I was doing some things. I was getting into the more traditional portraiture of somebody standing there, but with my style. So I did a series of the assassinated presidents. And it sounds like a dark idea, but it's U.S. history, and it's something that if they even teach anymore, they're going to gloss over it because it is what it is. But I did a book report on Garfield when I was 8.
No kidding.
And I learned about what an assassination was.
Of all people.
And I learned about an assassination. And what I like about my approach to the art is kind of like advertising. You learn a little about a lot. And all of those little nuggets float around in the back of your mind. And eventually when they intersect, you get an original idea. So the idea was the assassinated presidents. Start with Lincoln, of course, the most, well, depending on who you ask, JFK or Lincoln are the most well-known. The fourth that nobody knows about is McKinley. So those four. But at the same time, I created this effect called a spot varnish, which is an invisible writing over the front of the painting. Over the front of those paintings was the assassination date. So I'm telling the story of this face because someone's going to say, what's April 14th, 1865?
Once they see it.
Yeah, like it's the day that Lincoln was killed. November 22nd, 1963, JFK. So without that, it's just a painting of JFK. So I took that and ran with it. And when I did the JFK, I learned more about Jackie. Getting back to your question, a couple years ago, I got the Jackie idea. I don't know where the glasses and the reflection came from, but it was a nice challenge to paint her face completely and then make the glasses semi-transparent. Because of that watercolor experience I had, I knew I could do it. So when you see the painting, her eyes are still visible through the sunglasses, which normally would be the case.
Yeah, and it's stunning. It's quite stunning. You're listening to Doug Evans. I'm the president and CEO of the Palm Beach Chamber of Commerce. And with me today is Kyle Lux, who's an artist extraordinaire, who in the last few months has just really even more exploded onto the art scene, which is absolutely amazing. And we're sitting here talking about his style, portraiture, contemporary portraiture, if I can say it correctly.
Yeah.
I just learned that, which is wonderful, because I love art. I love certain kind of art. Modern art for me, sometimes I like the colors, but it's open to interpretation. But I like the portraiture because I recognize the people, and I like the textures of it. And it's the, like you said, the acrylics. There's layers to it, which I think is really phenomenal. So you've got all these celebrities that I went to your studio with my colleague Kiana Rivera and saw your work and said, "Oh gosh, we need the Palm Beach Chamber of Commerce." PalmBeachChamberOfCommerce.com, we do a guidebook every year with all of our members in it. And on the cover in the past has been an artist of somebody that typically an artist that was never alive anymore, even better yet. And, this year I had made a decision that I wanted something different and unique. And then when I met you, Kyle, I was inspired because I saw your Jackie Onassis painting. And then, of course, Kyle and I went down the path with the lawyer saying, can we do that? Can we do that? They said, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. For a writer. So I said to Kyle, I want a woman who is the epitome of Palm Beach, but it can't be just one specific woman. And I said, I want it to be the Swans. Mm-hmm. Now, depending on when you're listening to this podcast, there's the Truman Capote versus the Swans, the TV series. And of course, that era to me, I find fascinating for a lot of reasons. It's American history. It's the CBS network with Bill Paley. It's the Cushing sisters, all who married very, very well into society. It's a period of Americana where the men were the madmen on Wall Street and their wives were, or the Madison Avenue, and the wives were doing the clubs and things like that. And it was really an interesting time in American history. So I said to Kyle, I want the Swans. And Kyle said,
sure.
What are the Swans? What are the Swans?
Let me look it up.
And so Kyle, the point I'm making of this is, you as an artist were so receptive to taking a different idea and doing something with it. And of course, the Swans, Babe Paley, CZ Guest, Lee Radswell, there's that whole group, and Truman Capote, that whole archetype of this. So Kyle, when I talked to you about this, and I sent you some photos of things you did a lot of research, what was your process? And folks, you've got to go to our website, PalmBeachChamberOfCommerce.com. The guidebook is on there. Kyle's work is on there. You're going to go to his website, KyleLux.com, and we'll spell that for you because I want you to know what it is. You'll see this amazing, Kyle, it blew so many people away when we unveiled this here in town. And Kyle sold this in 12 seconds flat for a gigantic amount of money, which is crazy. And I was so thrilled. So when I said this to you, what was your process for saying, how do I come up with this woman? What do I do with this?
Well, I luckily had a lot of experience I call it Frankensteining. I rarely is one image good enough to paint from as the primary reference. So I'm, back to the athletes, I'm using 4 or 5 images to make up one. I don't like what he's wearing. I'm switching the jersey color, or I can't quite make out what this part is from that photo. So I'm going to grab another one. So I was used to that. And I also had this idea floating around in my head, like I said, of doing different facial features of famous people. But when you put them together, you're not going to recognize the final result. Right. That's how slightly different we all look. And I thought it'd be really cool to take Clooney's eyes and Brad Pitt's jawline and someone else's mouth. And it's like, what would that person look like? So when the idea for the swans came up, it's like, this is great. I love the challenge. I can finally do this idea that I've been waiting to pull off and see how it works. Not if, but just how do I make it happen? And so I did the part I really enjoy about what I do is the research phase. And with these women you sent me, it was just never ending. There's 30 books on Jackie. Well, Jackie wasn't considered one of the swans, but her sister Lee, there's just all this reference material. So I'm scouring the internet and I'm looking at everything from what they're wearing to the jewelry to what brand sunglasses, what would be of that era.
That's a detail.
And it's just, and then to read all of these stories that eventually turn into the show. My painting's nice and lighthearted, but when you watch the show, it's what happened with Capote and the feud and the backstabbing and all of that. So I got to read about that, and it was just really fun to do the idea with predominantly 3 women's facial features, mixing and matching to pull off what I did.
And those 3 women are?
It's CZ Guest, Babe Paley, and Gloria Guinness.
And those are 3 very different looking women.
Yeah.
When you do a little Google search, there are 3 different. CZ Guest is very, very specific. When you watch her on the TV shows and the photos, and to me it's really interesting. And the reason the Swans resonates to Palm Beach is because they had houses here, or they holidayed here, or they had friends here, or they had husbands or whatever. They had lots of stuff going on in Palm Beach. And so for me, we wanted to signify that Palm Beach is a unique brand. And so, Kyle, we kept this under wraps from just about everyone in the world for almost a year. It was crazy. And we showed 1 or 2 people who just absolutely just were over the moon saying, oh my God, Doug, I can't believe you did this. I'm like, I didn't do it. There's this wonderful young guy named Kyle Lux who did this, but it turned out so wonderful. So since you've unveiled this, what's nice about this, and you said something to me that I thought was remarkable. And I told this story last night to a friend of mine at dinner, that you're in the Breakers Hotel as a corporate events person, as an artist, and now your art is 6,000 copies, is in every room of the Breakers, is kind of like a dream come true.
Yeah. I would say even something I wouldn't even have dreamt of. It was beyond, it never occurred to me. I wouldn't say it was a tangible goal of, I got to get my stuff in this hotel. But when it happened, like I was up there in front of 500 people, this is insane. I was on the other end, and there was a corporate CEO on the stage where I was standing, or it's at the chamber breakfast and it's you and it's panels and it's prominent people in town. So that was just a surreal moment. And it was a reminder of you can't predict what's going to happen. It's nice to have goals, but don't plan too far out. Plan enough to keep yourself motivated, but you never know what's going to happen and who you're going to meet. And that was such an unexpected but pleasant surprise of coming to Palm Beach less than 3 years ago and then meeting you only a year ago.
Yeah, a year ago.
And having this project come about and get the reception that it had.
Dreams do come true.
Yeah.
And I remember so specifically the day you were on the Breakers on the stage at the breakfast. And for the listeners, those of you who are chamber members, we have this breakfast every month at the Breakers, 10 times a year, with 500 or 600 of our closest friends. And it's all the decision makers, it's all the people in town, the corporate people, it's all the people who are the trendsetters. They're influencers. It's a great group of people who make this region run in the best way. And Kyle, to have an artist up there who's unveiling a piece of work where we're then putting into their hands this piece of art, every person who walked in that room that day, and then thousands of copies going out in the community. And the Breakers usually takes 5,000 copies. They took 6,000 copies this year because people grab these things and run with them. And this friend of mine last night, Jeannie Brandhover, said, she goes, this is a coffee table book. It's so gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. And it is. But, selfish to me, I needed a cover for my book.
Yeah.
And I was introduced to this wonderful young artist who, Kyle, you were receptive to listening to somebody, because when somebody does a commission with you, clearly you know what they want and it's of them or something. Mm-hmm. And I was very specific. And I have to tell you, Kyle, you very rarely meet an artist who wants to work with you to achieve the result you're looking for. I would also say that with Kyle Lux as an artist, hopefully you'll go to his website and call him and hire him or buy some of his work. I gave you the idea and then I stopped right there and said, run with it. Mm-hmm. I think at one point in time you asked me about the color of the nails or the hat or something.
Yeah,
I don't know what it was.
absolutely.
And it's like, I don't care. It's your vision. You did it. And it's so beautiful. So, for you, Kyle, with next in your career, clearly you've had people calling you now. You told me a couple of days ago that you're getting more commissions.
Yes.
People are hiring you. Hopefully they're buying the stuff off the walls. You've been represented at a couple of galleries here in the Palm Beaches, which is terrific. And you're getting out there. And I think for you as a young person, because you're a young person, this is a real tipping point, I hope, for you in your career. And I know the first person you called when all this came about was your mom.
Yes. Like I said, my mom has a fine art degree, so she has been right there alongside me the whole time with support, with constructive criticism, which I ask for. It's never.
Did she criticize this piece, by the way?
No, but I enjoyed telling her about the collaboration we had and the example you just said, the nail color and how we work back and forth, and the lady of Palm Beach, and what would she wear, and
what would she wear?
What's the luncheon attire? And so it's just, she's living somewhat vicariously through me because she wasn't able to use her art degree and she went into business, but she has it in her, and she likes to see, she's very proud of me that I'm pursuing this dream and keeping it up that has run in the family for generations. So yeah, she's been there, and I called my sister and my dad and my best friends in St. Louis, and just wanted to share this journey with them. And
Guess what?
Yeah.
Guess what? Guess what? Guess what?
Yeah, and then wait patiently because it's going to take 8 months to come out or something like that.
Yeah, but Kyle, what's cool about this is you're out there now with it. Clearly, our guidebook, the Palm Beach Guide, is a marketing piece for you, which we love. People use our book, by the way. And I can tell, Kyle, when I started the Chamber a year or so ago, I'm like, who would use a book? This book is in such demand. People grab it because the content is in there that we need to run our businesses in the region. And to have you gracing the cover, plus your stories on the inside of the book, to me is nothing more than, I'm so thrilled. I'm so grateful to have you in my life with the work you've done, that you generously said, yes, you would do this to us, and you made it happen. And to me, that's remarkable about you as an individual, as a human being, because most people don't do that. And in conversation with people, you want to help people. You've got that Midwestern thing. You want to help people.
Yeah.
Right. And that's, to me, that's everywhere, by the way. But I think specifically being from the Midwest myself and growing up down here, that's something that really in certain parts of the country, it's right up front. You help the neighbor. Kind of thing without question. And so I feel like we're neighbors, but now we're like BFFs and doing great things. Folks, you've been listening to Doug Evans. I'm the president and CEO of the Palm Beach Chamber of Commerce. With me today is Kyle Lux. Kyle Lux, KYLELUCKS.com. And you can email him at info@kylelux.com. Or is there a phone number, or is you just prefer email?
Email is the best because we're going to get there anyway.
Yep.
If it's a commission, if it's something like that, we're going to exchange files and
go online and look for his work, because it's nothing short of amazing. It is for sale, folks. It's for sale, and people are buying it left and right. Get on the collector wagon now before he shoots to even more like a bigger than a Warhol status at this point in time. Kyle, thanks for being here. Thanks for being a Palm Beacher, for all you've done for us and for the town, the Chamber. Folks, you've just listened to another edition of Your Palm Beach Guide. I'm Doug Evans, President and CEO of the Palm Beach Chamber of Commerce. Come visit us. Come to the restaurant, come to the theater, go stay at the Breakers on the beach, the Colony Hotel. We've got great hotels here. We've got great restaurants, great shopping at the Royal Poinciana Plaza, North County Road, South County Road, Worth Avenue. We are a destination. Today we've got some liquid sunshine, but even on a rainy day in Palm Beach, it's a gorgeous day, and it's good for you. So come visit us and make it a great day. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for having me, Doug.